Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our free training series on Manage Engine Applications Manager. My name is Selvaraj, and I will be the presenter for today's session. Hope you can see my screen and hear my voice well. I kindly request you to confirm it by adding a comment in the chat panel so that we can get started. Still waiting for a few confirmation. Great. So let's get started. This is our training schedule spread across 4 weeks, and we are now in week 4 of the schedule, and this is our last training session of this series. We took a simple web application architecture where the application components such as database server, application server, web servers, proxy server, APIs, physical or virtual server website, and many more has to be monitored. So a quick recap, we started our week 1 training showing how to discover various application components through application discovery and dependency mapping, how to add them in monitor groups, how to add monitors in bulk using bulk import option, and various roles under user management. In week 2, we saw various performance metrics of these application components and how to troubleshoot the performance issues by creating various thresholds. Once the threshold is created, how that can be notified to a user under various action, we saw those corrective and notification actions. Then we saw reports and how to schedule them, dashboard and how to publish it in your intranet portal. In week 3, we saw various ways to monitor your website, application component of websites. If there are any defaced happen to your web page, we can monitor it via website content monitoring and end user experience. A video of last week's session is available in our training web page for participants who missed it out. The link will also be shared in the chat panel. So in today's session, we'll be looking on how an end-to-end transaction can be monitored across your entire application infrastructure to ensure visibility and have complete insight of your application, to identify if there is any performance bottleneck in your application components, identify if there are any SQL query which is slowing down your web app, and monitor JVM performance. So to analyze and measure web app performance, we have an agent called as APM Insight, which supports web app built on Java, .NET, and Ruby on Rails. With so many different metrics being produced by a wide range of business applications, how can one normalize performance and assemble information into something meaningful? It's a difficult task, right? So APM Insight offers visual representation of these performance metrics, starting from URL to SQL queries, AppDex score to measure user satisfaction, and transaction tracing. What is AppDex? AppDex is Application Performance Index, which is an open standard to measure the user satisfaction regarding a web application. It is a metric that provides a single score ranging between 0 to 1, where 0, no user satisfied, 1, where all users satisfied. So which gives business application owners an insight into the measure of their customer happiness and satisfaction level. So in transaction level metrics, we show various metrics such as response time, throughput, and split up based on various components. Now let me switch to the UI and show you how this can be done. And in real time, we are going to see how we are going to install this agent. So this is our application manager UI. So as you can see, it's a one tool to monitor your 100+ apps. let me click on APM Insight tab. For the first time when you do it, you will get this page where you need to download the agent. So when I click on download and install agent, I'll be redirected to a web page where we have various agents to be downloaded. One is APM Insight Java agent, which is in zip format, APM Insight .NET, which is in a Microsoft installation file, and the other is Ruby on Rails. Now, I'm going to show you how we can install and start configuring .NET agent. For this, I'm going to take a test machine and show you that. Let me close this window. So here is one of my test machines where I have the IS Server 6 and above and .NET Framework 3 and above. That's the prerequisite for .NET agent. I have a folder here, APM Insight. I've already downloaded the agent. So I'm going to right click and click on install. Click next. I agree in the license agreement page. Click next. And I can browse and choose the folder where I want to install. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to do it under E drive. And this is the folder where I'm going to install. Now you must be wondering what everyone or just me means. It is whether the application should be installed to everyone who logs into the machine or just the user who is currently logged in and installing the app. So I'm going to leave it as default and let me click on next. Here again, you will see an option global profiling environment. By default, it is disabled, but sometimes there are web apps which won't load the profiler through registry. So in that case, user can enable this option. So let me just leave it as it is and click on next. So you have an option while installing the agent, you can restart your IS server or even you can do that later. So I'm going to restart it now. Let me click on next, next. And while installing, I have a pop-up window, which is the APM Insight .NET agent configuration page. So here we need to provide the host name of the app manager. So I'm going to give it. And the port where my application manager is running. We are again going to revisit this window and talk about various tabs that we have and options. So for now, I'm going to enter the host and port alone and let me click on save. So once this is done, you will see the command to reset the IS has been called and it is getting restarted. So let's wait for a few seconds. This is a README page. So I'm going to close this window and the installation is almost complete. Let me click on close. And now the agent is installed. Let me check if that has been reflected in my app manager UI. Let me minimize this and refresh the page. Not yet, because the IS server is restarting, right? So it will take few seconds to do it. Now let's go ahead and talk about the various agent configuration that we have. So I'm relogging into the test machine and do the search for APM Insight agent configuration window. Let me click on it. So it will open up the agent configuration page. So under General tab, we saw that you need to enter the app manager host and port. Even you can use the HTTPS protocol if you want to. Under application name, you need to provide the name of the application that you want to monitor, right? And you have a checkbox called as MultiMonitor. So let's talk about this. What does it mean? In case the entire application which is running in your IS server, let me open up the IS server here. So all these applications, the sites that are running, if you want to monitor under one name, you can specify this option, that is my application, and uncheck this. But in case if you want to monitor individually, you can select this option, that is multi-monitor. And you have an option under App Filter tab where you can choose the application that you want to monitor. So for now, I'm leaving it as default. All right. And under settings, we have AppDex threshold. By default, it is 0.5 second, 500 milliseconds. So if any transaction response time score value is below the AppDex threshold, then the transaction is labeled as satisfied. If the score is 4 times the threshold, then it is labeled as frustrated, which means 4 times 0.5 into 4, that is 2 seconds and more, it is labeled as frustrated. And if the score is in between satisfied and frustrated, it is labeled as tolerating. So it's an industry standard we have provided here. We have an option to capture database SQL queries. So if your web application uses a database, so SQL queries will be captured and shown in the application UI. So all the agent data collection happens through the agent and it is pushed to the applications manager. So it's a one-way communication. App manager will not contact the agent. All right. So the second option, which is parameterize SQLs in transaction trace. So in case if there are any sensitive information in your SQL query, you can exclude it by choosing this option. The second option is capture CPU time. This is transaction level CPU time is captured. Under logging, we have enable logging. This is for pretty much troubleshooting purpose. By default, the log level is in critical. In case if we need to drill down more, we can select as debug and save the file. All right. Now, I'm going to open the App Manager UI and verify if my agent is listed out there. All right. So let me minimize my test machine. Go to the UI and refresh the page. And here you go. I have the application, my application, which I created. But wait, there is no data at all, right? It is empty. Why? Because we haven't done any transaction. We have to do the transaction. Then only the agent will collect those data and push it to applications manager. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to open my test machine again. And I'm going to save this information that I did and open the IS server. So here I have a default app that I created. So I'm going to right click, manage application, and click on browse. So when I do it, the application will be invoked. And since it is a web-based, I'm going to access it via the browser. So I'm going to do some transaction here by clicking on various options that I have and see how it goes. So the agent will collect information and every 1 minute, the data will be pushed to the applications manager. So let me do some other transaction. Maybe I can create some error. So these are all predefined in this web app to show the various metrics that we show in applications manager. Okay, so let me do a few other calls. All right. Great. So we are getting error as well. So let's see if those traces are pushed to the application manager. So now I did some transaction. Let me wait for a minute so that the data is pushed to the applications manager. Meantime, let's go ahead and open up the APM.NET agent configuration window and discuss more on other tabs. So now we saw on the general and app filter, what is its use. Now, I'm going to talk about advanced tab. So under agent performance setting, we have something called as sampling factor, which means here the value is 5, right? Which means for every 5 transaction, 1 transaction will be counted, and for that, the data will be collected and pushed to Applications Manager. And for that transaction, we show the AppDex score and other metrics. For example, if you have accessed index.html page 5 times, then 1 out of 5 transaction is captured and the agent will collect the data. Under HTTP parameters, you can enable capturing the HTTP params. And in case if you want to exclude some sensitive information, you can exclude it by providing the information here, all right, in this tab. In case if the application manager is behind a proxy or firewall, then you can provide the proxy authentication here so that the agent can communicate to the applications manager. Now the next tab is background transaction. All right. In this, we have again sampling factor, which means 1 out of 5 sampling transaction can be captured. And we have captured trace for background transaction. And the default value is in 2 seconds. If it is 2 seconds, then the background transaction that took more than 2 seconds, for that background transaction, trace will be captured. Now, the enable web service is disabled by default. So in case if it is in disabled state, the web service call, whatever happens in the application, will be captured under background transaction. And if you want to enable this, the data will be shown under web transaction. All right, I'll show it in the UI for you. The next tab that I want to discuss is transaction merge. This is to specify the URL patterns to be matched and merged. Let me open up a notepad and show you a quick example here. Now, suppose you have a eBay website and you have a user, some random number I'm giving, and again, there is some other users that you want to capture. Now, I'm going to take another URL as an example, some random number, chocolates, Kit Kat, all right. And again, I'm going to give another URL here. Some name, all right. Now, you have various HTTP, right? And if you want to do a pattern and want to merge it, how we can do is, now you can watch. So now let's take this. So eBay, just like we use wildcard, we are going to use it here, user/star, and we are going to name it as user, all right. Similarly, the eBay shop, and since this is going to be a random, I'm going to put it as star. And again, this is going to be dynamic. I'm going to put it as star. And I'm going to name it as chocolates. So what it means is the URL that starts with eBay user will be captured under username. The URL that starts with eBay shop and chocolates, it will be captured under chocolate. So let us see how we can add it. So let me click on add, give this URL pattern to be matched, and the name. And you just need to save it. All right, great. So now let's see the last tab, trace setting. Here, in case if you want to enable traces and view them in Applications Manager, you need to enable this. The first option is stack trace threshold for SQL in transaction trace, which is by default in 3 seconds, which means the SQL query, which is taking more than 3 seconds to execute, for those SQL query, stack trace will be captured. The next is component count trace threshold. So by default, it is 30. So say in a transaction, there are various components, for example, SQL query, web service call, etc. So in a single transaction, in case if there are more than 30 components called, then we will take the trace of the transaction. So that is why the threshold is. And hope you remember the CPU time threshold, which we saw under general tab. Here you can define the threshold value. And once this is done, you need to click on save. All right. Now, let me go to the UI and verify if the data has been pushed. And yes, it is. So earlier you saw there were no data. Now it is showing the data for the .NET agent. Let me click on it. So this is my application. So under my application, you can see the AppDex score, average response time, and throughput information. All right. Now, this is for .NET. I'm going to log into another test machine and show you how to configure Java agent. All right. So again, let me take the machine. Let me minimize this. And let me close this window. I have a test machine here, which is app support W10. All right. Here, I've already downloaded the APM Insight Java agent. It's in zip format, as I told earlier. You need to extract it wherever you want. You can extract it and place it. I have done it under C drive app manager installation demo. So it is already there. So once you extract it, you will see these files. So APM Insight conf is the configuration file that we need to change. So by default, the application name is my application. I'm going to put it as Java Agent Web App. So that's my application name. And the host where I want to push the information. So it's going to be app support W7. And the port where I want to push the information. So host and port of the application manager where it is running. Save the file. And let me minimize this notepad. You might be wondering, is that it? And is it enough to restart the application? No, it isn't. We have to provide the Java agent path in the startup file of the application that you want to monitor. So here, what I did is I took application manager itself as an example, and I'm going to configure APM Insight for the application manager itself. So it's a different installation altogether. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Let me go to the installation directory of the application manager. So under app manager working conf, I have a file called wrapper.conf. Why this wrapper.conf? Because when you install application manager as a service, when you start or stop the service, wrapper.conf file is the one which get initiated first. All right. So let me just scroll down, maximize it and scroll down. So under Java additional parameter, you need to provide that complete path of the APM Insight jar file. So here you go. Let me highlight this and show it to you. So under additional parameter, you need to provide the Java agent and the complete path where this APM Insight Java agent jar file resides. Once this is done, you save the file and you need to restart the application. So let me open up services. And start my admin server. Okay, so this is where I'm configuring the agent. So let me just wait for a few seconds so that the app manager admin server gets started. Meantime, let me just minimize this app support W10 and open up the agent once again. So APM Insight configuration window. So I told, like, you can select MultiMonitor, right? So you can use this option to monitor your application individually, which is deployed in your IaaS server. In that, you can select this option, and let me show you how it looks like. So under app filter, I'm going to select a couple of web app that I want to monitor. So I'm going to just unselect few of those. So I'm going to leave it these 4, and I'm going to click on save. Please note, when you select this, it is asking you to restart the agent, not the IaaS server. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click save. Let me reconfirm. Yeah. So let me click on save, open services, and I'm going to restart my .NET agent. So let me go ahead and restart it. And I'm going to wait for it to completely restart. Meantime, let me switch to W10, that is Java agent. Let me open up the directory where we can see whether the application has completely started or not. So this is my folder. I'm going to see the logs. So it is getting started. Maybe I can wait for a few seconds. Also, let me also show you how you can go ahead and do about it. So for instance, this is the admin server, right? So I have managed server as well. So let me go ahead and stop it. Show you in real time how we can go ahead and do it. So let me copy the agent directory. Let me copy this and go to my managed server. And let me paste it here. So I'm going to extract it to APM Insight agent folder. Let me delete this zip file. Open up the APM Insight conf. Again, APM Insight conf file in Notepad++, and provide the application name that I want to do. So it's going to be Java agent managed server. So the machine where I want to push the data and the port where it has been installed. So let me go ahead and click on save. So again, as I told you that we need to provide this agent jar file. So I need to copy this additional parameter and add it in the wrapper.conf file of my managed server. So it's going to be working conf wrapper.conf. Let me open it. So under additional parameter, I already have it. So since this is a new agent, I'm going to copy the exact location of where my agent is, right? So this is going to be the path. Let me copy this and paste it here or make changes. So here you go. So let me go ahead and save it. Save my wrapper.conf of the managed server. Let me clear the logs of the managed server and open up services.msc and start the managed server. I'm going to start it. Let me minimize this. And this is going to take a few seconds for the application manager to start. So this is one of the Java-based application, right? So it's going to take a few seconds. Meantime, let me minimize the test machine and go to the UI. So here, if you see the default website that we have enabled in the .NET agent, it is now available here. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the information that we display under the APM Insight. So under web transaction, if you see the various web page that we have called, we show it in here, and the slowest average response time, based on that you can sort it out. Not only that, based on throughput, most time consuming, and errors, based on that the web transaction can be captured. So when you click on it, it will show the individual, the response time of the web transaction that has happened. So here, if you see, the app desk score is like 100, which is frustrated. And here we have components split up where MVC and handle request. So 50% is the handle request, and 50%, almost 50% is the MVC request. All right. So now this is all about the response time, throughput, and what all the various split up we saw, right? And how to install and configure them. The next is how to identify which SQL query is slowing down your web app, right? So in APM Insight, we have an option where you can see the SQL query which is consuming more time. You can identify slow database call or database usage, and based on that, the overall performance can be monitored. Not only that, in case if a SQL query is taking more time to execute, based upon the trace that you have enabled in the configuration, we can provide the stack trace information. All right. So for this, what we need to do is we need to do some transaction. Let me jump to the UI and show you if there are any background transaction that has happened. All right. So for instance, under web database tab, you can see that the store procedure took most of the time. Okay, so that is performing slow. And again, here we have an option to filter it out based on throughput, most time consuming, or errors. Let me scroll down. So based on database throughput by operation, response time by operation, we show the split up here. So in case if there is any stack trace that has happened in the database, we can also trace it down. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm again going to the APM Insight dashboard, and this is one of my Java agent managed server, which is now available. And here are a few database transactions that I want to show you. So again, when I click on some database, here is the response time, throughput information that we get. All right. And the next is to identify which Java components is responsible for performance bottleneck, right? So in order to do it, we have something called as background tab, under which you can get the background transaction that is consuming more time, or which background transaction or process is taking or time consuming, due to which your web app is performing slow. So that information can be tracked under background process. Not only that, if there are any error in your transaction, we can very well monitor it. So based on the errors that has been generated, we can find the stack trace, and based upon the stack trace, you can very well verify which method has caused that problem. All right. So let me again switch to UI and do some transactions so that we can get those traces and other information. All right. So again, in the Java agent under traces, you can see that one of the method has been called. Let me click on it. So that method, which is show resource.do, this is the slowest component where the each methods are called. Not only that, you can very well see the SQL query which has been called in that method. So this is under summary. So if you click on trace detail, so each method that is called within the app will show it here, and where the SQL query has been labeled here as SQL. And if you want to filter it out which SQL query you want to verify, you can click on the SQL statement tab, and there we show the complete SQL query and the execution time. So let me scroll down slowly. All right. So let me click on errors tab. As of now, there is no error in the application, hence we are not able to see any error trace. So for Java agent, what we saw an example of application itself, right? So I have a Tomcat application. So I'm going to configure the Java agent again for it. So it is installed in my machine. So let me open the folder. Here you go. So Apache Tomcat. In that, I have a sample web app that I have deployed, and I've installed the application manager here. All right. So I've configured the agent. Let me just quickly show the bin here, because what we saw is the wrapper.conf file in the Java application, which is our application manager itself. But in the other application, you need to give it in the startup file. So for instance, startup.bat, let me edit it. So here you need to provide the Java optional parameter and the path where this particular agent jar is available. All right. And I can open up the APM Insight conf file and provide the application name. All right. And save it. Let me go ahead and delete the agent logs and other information from here. All right. Now it is stated as fresh. So I'm going to the Apache bin folder, and I'm going to open the command prompt from here. And let me try to start the product. So here is another tab where it is showing that the application is getting started. So let me minimize this, and let me check if that agent is available now. Yes, it is. So my app Tomcat, we have to perform some operation, right? Then only those data will be captured through the agent and pushed to applications manager. So I'm going to access that application. It is going to be the sample web. Let me do some transaction here. So this is just random transaction that I'm doing. All right. So there might be some errors or traces that might be running in the background. So let's see if those traces are getting captured. Let me call a method which is not available at all. All right. So the calc.do, that method is not available at all. So hence it is throwing the 500 error. Let me do some other transaction. Great. So I'm going to wait for a minute so that the agent push the data to the application manager. All right. Meantime, let's see what other metrics that we show in applications manager. So we monitor the JVM performance metrics, and we show it for the Java-based application. We show the detailed information of what is the garbage collector thread information, and is there any deadlock happen in the web application. All right. For this, let me switch to the UI. And take one of the Java agent and click on the JVM. So here we show the heap memory, non-heap memory, just-in-time compiler information, JVM class count information. And under garbage collector, various components like TS scavenge and mark sweep are displayed. And based upon the objects that has been collected and the time spent on it, we show it in the tabular format. Under threads, we show the aggregated CPU and the user time for all the thread, and if there are any deadlock, we show it in the UI. Under configuration, it is the general configuration information about your JVM will be displayed. All right. So let me just quickly verify if there are any data. No, not yet. So it's going to push it, after some time. Now, all these metrics are based upon the APM Insight, which is a agent based, right? In case if you have any web application that you want to monitor it via application manager without any agent, we have a monitor type called as Java Runtime Monitor. So in your web application, you need to make sure that the JMX RMI is enabled and the port that we use to collect the information is enabled. Not only that, you can even associate corrective actions that we saw in week 2. You can create a thread dump or garbage collection or heap dump via this action. All right. Not only that, you can select the target JRE. If you want to select a specific host, you can provide it in this action type. All right. So let me go ahead and show you quickly how to configure this. Let me open up the test machine. So the main prerequisite for Java Runtime Monitor is to add these 4 parameters. So again, I took an example of application manager, manage server, and in wrapper.conf file, I'm configuring these additional parameters. So you need to make sure that the port that you are using is not occupied by any other application. So once this is done, you need to restart the product. Now let me switch to UI. When you click on add new monitor, Java Runtime, you need to provide the host detail, the port, and the JNDI name, and you need to click on add monitor. So I've already added a Java Runtime Monitor. So let me take you to that monitor page and show you various metrics that we show in Applications Manager. So under Java Runtime Monitor, connection time statistics, memory usage, heap and non-heap, CPU usage, process memory, system information, and various subcomponents under heap memory and non-heap memory, VM statistics information, and host memory information are shown in the Overview tab of JRE Monitor, Java Runtime Monitor. Under Garbage Collection tab, we show the summary, PS mark sweep, PS scavenge information, like how much time there was spent, what is the thread count, start time, end time, and much more. Under threads, we show the total thread that has been started, peak thread, live thread. If there are any thread that has been blocked or waiting, we show it here in the thread up information. And again, the history of thread dump can be viewed here. Now, under configuration, we show the information about the JVM, the process ID, arguments, class path, and much more. Under action, we have an option called view thread dump, right? So when you click on it, it will pop up a window. And in that particular window, you can see the various thread that has been called and the state, whether it's runnable, wait, or blocked, and various additional attributes such as CPU time in second, percentage, and blocked threads are also shown. Not only that, in case if you want to view a trace of these, you can click here and see where the actual issue is, which method is causing the problem, which method is blocking the thread, and much more. Let me close this. The second is heap dump. You can manually trigger the heap dump and verify where is the issue lies. So when I click on heap dump, it will generate the heap dump and it will be available under the folder where the JRE is available. All right, so let me go to the machine, minimize all window. So it is so here you have. All right, so thread dump will be available under the JRE folder of your application. All right, so let me minimize the test machine. And again, if you want to delete the history, you can very well click on the X mark so that the history from the UI will get deleted. All right. So based on the discussion so far, I have made few questionnaires for you. So please take few seconds and try to answer them and keep it with you. So there are 5 questions. Great. So this is the answer for those questions. Hopefully you all might got right. So in case if not, no worries. You can revisit this video and listen to whenever you want. All right. So we are at the end of the session now. So let's have a quick recap what we saw. So in this training session, we saw how the agent installation has to be done and the configuration, various metrics that we show in Applications Manager. In addition to that, how a Java Runtime Monitor can be added. So now it's time for the Q&A session, and I'll be handing over this session to one of my panelists, Arun. And for your information, there will be a survey at the end of the session, and we kindly request you all to provide your valuable feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Selva. I hope you guys found the session interesting today. There were quite a few questions that were asked during this APM Insight presentation. I'll just walk you through a couple of them so that the people can know about it and can have a quick overview of some questions that you might have in your mind. Let me just quickly get the questions for you. Give me a quick minute. All right. So the first question is, where can I see the data complete DB query? So that was one question that was asked. So in order to reduce the performance impact due to monitoring, the agent only track DB queries completely when capturing traces for the transaction. Otherwise, just the type of the query, the table name are captured in the database tab. So let me just quickly show it to you in the UI so that you can just get a brief idea. So as you can see in the database tab of the applications of the APM Insight Monitor, you can just see a list of the most frequently run queries and the ones that are the slowest based on their response time. So you have different sort options to view the queries that have been run in your application. However, if you go into the traces tab of your APM Insight and view one of the transaction, there you will be able to view the complete SQL statement that was run during that transaction. So the next question is, what are background transactions? So basically, apart from the primary threads of the application, there are a few transactions that will be running in a different thread in the background. Those transactions are what is called as background transactions, which is also captured by the APM Insight agent. So the availability of APM Insight Monitor shows as down. So what does that mean? So what a user has to infer based on that status. So it could mean either that your application server is down, or the communication between the APM Insight agent and applications manager is not working. So if it is either one of these cases, the APM Insight Monitor will be shown as down. So the other question is, can more than one instance be grouped, and if yes, how? So yes, you can group more than one instance under an application name. So in order to do this, while deploying the agent in your application server, specify the same application name for the key application.name, which is available in your APM Insight configuration. The key is common for both Java and .NET agents. You need to point the APM Insight agent to a managed server, since that is the data collector of your enterprise architecture. However, since all the monitored information is transmitted to the admin server, you will also be able to view the APM Insight in your admin server, including the transactions that has been captured in the APM Insight monitor. The final question is, can custom MBeans be monitored in Applications Manager in addition to the default metrics that are captured using either the Java APM Insight agent or the Java Runtime Monitor? The answer is yes. You can actually monitor your own attributes or your own MBeans that are running in a Java application. We have a monitor called as the JMX application monitor. Let me just quickly show it to you. So this is the monitor type that is called as JMX applications. Adding it will be similar to adding a Java runtime monitor. You will have to provide the JMX host name and port number in addition to the JMX application name. So once that is added, you will find the JMX application monitor here, and just the response time will be available by default. Once that is done, you can actually add your own attributes. If you know the specific MBean that you're looking for, you can actually add them directly over here. Or if you want to browse through the application to find the necessary attribute, you can just click on it and we list all the possible attributes that can be monitored, and you can choose the necessary attributes that you want to monitor. And and you can also take reports for them by enabling reports for that attribute, and this is available only for numeric attributes. All right, so that brings us to the close of this session of APM Insight and Java application monitoring. So, and also brings us to the end of this session of APM free training. So, as mentioned earlier, you will receive a survey at the end of this session. Please do share your valuable feedback, and we'll have another training session scheduled in the future, which I would always invite you to join. Thank you. The chat panel will be open for some more time so that you can ask any other questions that you have. Thank you.